Hey, how we doing? I think I got the chat working. Only the last two comments showed up. I don't know why. Got William here and Marianne Strayhorn. Good to see y'all. I also see we got Paul was up first from the UK. Good to see. Well, actually, you're in Almunicar, Spain. You said it's 11 p.m. there. Wow. Good to see you, brother. We got Eileen with us and Jennifer. And I think that's all that's signed in so far. Kind of a quiet day. I put out an ask on YouTube and X and Facebook, said, what do y'all want me to talk about today? I only got a couple responses, so that's okay. I've always got plenty to talk about, and it doesn't always have to be a full hour anyway, so it can just be a time of talking and praying together. Oh, we got Katrin with us from Germany. Good to see you, sister. All right, I turned to a page with some old prayers on it in my prayer book. I thought it might be good to say some prayers. This is in the section for God's help and strength. So the first one is from Alcuin. Give me, O Lord, I pray thee, firm faith, unwavering hope, perfect charity. Pour into my heart the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and spiritual strength, the spirit of knowledge and true godliness, and the spirit of thy holy fear. Light eternal, shine in my heart. Power eternal, deliver me from evil. Wisdom eternal, scatter the darkness of my ignorance. Might eternal, pity me. Grant that I may ever seek thy face with all my heart and soul and strength. And in thine infinite mercy, bring me at last to thy holy presence, where I shall behold thy glory and possess thy promised joys. That's a good one. I didn't read it before I read it out loud just now. That's what I get. Did y'all see that I had a good week of interviews? I was really glad to offer y'all what I did this week. And I should probably look up my page and make sure I don't forget to, I'll go to, and I've been clipping up my morning segments as well. And those are good, but the conversations I have, I just love that I started this so that I could talk with interesting people. So the three things that I did for the benefit, of everyone, but especially the Global Methodist Movement, a conversation with Steve Cordell of the River Network on evangelism and disciple making and church building, church planting. Another conversation with Mark Olson, which was on justification ostensibly, but turned into a lot more than that because everything is connected. We got to a really good place at the end there where he said, really, the doctrine that is so foundational that needs to get reclaimed right now, it's not that justification doesn't matter, but everything is, all of the decline that we've seen in the integrity of Christianity goes back to, I'm making it a little bit bigger than he said it, but I don't think he would disagree with me, goes back to loosening, lessening, softening the doctrine of the fall. If we don't understand how bad the fall is, then we're not going to be able to have robust doctrines of justification or sanctification or salvation or everything is connected, right? And so that really is the central thing that just got demolished. And if we don't reclaim it, we might use all the same words and terminology. We might understand it in theory and have some feelings about it, but it's a pale reflection of what came before. And of course, I can't help but agree. So if you haven't seen that, that's a good one. But the best one, it's how do you rank these things? They're all great. They're all about worthy topics. But the one with Kevin Watson, I mean, when I talk with that guy, I just feel like he and I see the same picture of like how holy God is and how high the calling is and how great our tradition is. Like that really comes through with Kevin. And I find myself like usually I'm trying to get people to, I'm putting things in my own language to show how extreme what the things the people I'm talking to are saying. But Kevin, this conversation with him, like, and he's not like the most extroverted, like, let's have a fight guy. But he said some really strong stuff about seminaries and how it is that Methodist denominations in particular have been way too trusting of Methodist seminaries and how we need to scrutinize them and revise how trusting we are of them, which, I mean, I just think anytime. Okay, so one of the original reformers in the West was a guy named Ulrich Zwingli, and I actually don't know that much about him. Pretty sure he was Anabaptist. Anyway, he apparently professionally was an accomplished organist. And so you would assume that whenever he's building his new movement, his new church movement, that he would, make church music central and the organ very important, because he happens to be good at that and humans are naturally self-promoting, right? And what he does instead is he insists, yes, church music is very important, but instruments are not helpful. He agreed with John Calvin that they create idolatrous tendencies. And so in the movement that he created, there were no musical instruments at all, much less the organ. And so you just can't help but respect when someone whose religious convictions are not beneficial to them selfishly, who still insist on that, and you find that in Acts of the Apostles, whenever they spread the good news to different regions, and it had economic implications. And at one point, like all the local people who do witchcraft and magic and stuff get their magic books together and just burn them, and it was worth a ton of money. Anyway, Kevin, he understands that he's part of the academy, and he could say a bunch of things that are just polite and good for everybody, but he fears the Lord more than he fears anyone who would take offense. And so he really spoke very plainly. One of the things you see in that conversation that you're not going to see in many of my conversations is where he says things and I don't push him at all. I just kind of let him go and say, wow, that was really something, so I was really proud of him. Anyway, my purpose in spending time on that is, and having all these conversations, my hope is like, it just seems to me that we have a lot of good words and theories, but we don't have a lot of people to like, I'm saying like a lot, I'm sorry. The implications of what we believe are just not self-evident to a lot of people. And you just have to have someone connect the dots. And so that's what I understand myself to be doing. And I think it's effective, but it's just, it's easy to kind of take that for granted and assume that's happening everywhere. But it seems to me that there are a lot of people saying truthful things that are a reflection of the truth, but they're not building the connecting tissue so that you understand how revolutionary and radical this stuff is. And I hope you do get that feeling as you listen to me talk and you see me present on these different topics that are all interconnected. And I did get some topics sent to me today that I'll get into in just a minute. Want to greet friends from South Dakota who are with us. Local says I haven't started yet, huh? That's upsetting. Give me a second. I'll see if I can't. Oh, great. I got my chat working at least. All right, let me see about this. Give me a second. I'm just going to hit reload here. Wait. Can you guys see a picture? All right. D is there. Charles is there. And yeah, I'm not getting the chat. Man, why is this not working right? Okay. I got to bring my friends there. Here. I get the stream setting. Y'all just, sing a little song. All right. All right, I just put it on. How about now? Can you see me? Hopefully this works better this time. Things are always keeping me guessing, aren't they? Doggone it. It's still not working, huh? If y'all can't see me, go to YouTube or Facebook. Sorry. Well, wait. Now my chat's coming through. Sing a song. Yeah, I'm glad somebody knew what I was humming. Eileen says, I identified with Kevin Watson's comments about mentorship and mentoring. These were good. Man, I wonder what's going on. Yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Keith. No, not Keith. Kevin. Man, Kevin's legit. We're really lucky to have Kevin as a part of our movement, and we would be wise to listen to him. What exactly there is to do. What I wanted to do with him, what we didn't have time for, was we need to spend some time really thinking about what an alternate model of training clergy would look like. What he details in his book here is an apprenticeship model. He says originally, didn't send people to seminary to see if they had a calling, or if they had a calling, you didn't send them. You gave them on-the-job training, on-the-ground training. So there would be regular revivals, worship services, things going on where you preach the word and bring people to repentance. And if somebody was showing that they might have the gifts and graces, then you would just put them up in front of people and say, all right, preach. And then if they move people to repentance, if there was a response among the people, then they would see, they would say, okay, I think you've got potential and we'll train you. I don't know what that would look like today. Because what I wonder at is how it is that you would really gauge their efficacy on the ground. That's what I wish I'd really pressed Kevin on, because it's surely not an easy thing. There might be someone who gives like a really good sermon, but they're too dry. They don't connect well with people. There might be someone who connects well with people, but their doctrine is terrible, or they're emotionally manipulative and dishonest. And surely there's a way to and then what do you do? What I find myself, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes because I'm listening to somebody who's doing an awesome job, and people are just kind of not really responding, And of course, I love the sermons that I preach, but am I really getting people to make a decision? Am I really getting people, I think I would flunk right out of the apprenticeship model, even though I love my sermons and I think what I say is great. But I just don't know how we would navigate that, but I'm much more interested in that model than I am in this kind of professional, clinical, expert model that we've got. That just doesn't seem to go well. Lisa, thank you for your compliment on my vest. I like this thing too. Have you ever seen Back to the Future where he's wearing a vest and they say it's not part of the fashion in the 1960s, and they say, are you going fishing or something? And I don't know how this ever became fashionable. It's very comfortable, though, so I like it. Let's look at a couple things people sent me. Yeah, let's start with some humor. Babylon Bee. My friend Jen sent me this article from last year. Not sure which Christian denomination to join. Here are the pros and cons of each. So this is a joke. Babylon Bee is a satire news site. They authored this November 21st of last year. So things shouldn't be too different by now. So it can be so confusing trying to figure out which of the 437 Christian denominations you want to join. In fact, scientists believe there are almost as many denominations as there are genders. That's a lot of different ways to do church. Luckily, we're here to help you sort through them all. Here are the pros and cons of each of the major denominations. So with Baptists, the pro is the potlucks. Con is diabetes. That does come with good potlucks. Presbyterians, the pros are the majestic old hymns that cause your soul to rejoice in God's glory. The con is you are not allowed to move a single muscle while rejoicing in God's glory. Yeah, the phrase frozen chosen applies to congregations like this. Lutheran, pro is Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Con is Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, I think. Yeah, the con is the liberals. They're like the UMC for the Lutherans. Catholic, their pro is Pope John Paul II, and their con is Pope Francis. That's an interesting thing that they would put John Paul II in there as a pro. Non-denom, see Baptist. The joke being non-denominational is Baptist. Reformed, pro is you learn the doctrines of grace, but the con is learning the doctrines of grace somehow makes you an arrogant jerk. Yeah, that's a stereotype that often holds true. Joel Osteen's Lakeward Church, pro is positive, uplifting messages. The con is you go to hell. Evangelical Megachurch, pro, casual come as you are mentality. Con, you are a totally depraved wretch. Oh yeah, come as you are. Well, you are a totally depraved wretch. Okay, yeah. Eastern Orthodox, the pro is full, robust beards. That's true. And then con is the women have them too. I hadn't read this. Oh heck, it's like the dwarves in Lord of the Rings. Charismatic pro, you hit your step goal 20 minutes into service, because you're moving around a lot. Con, non-zero chance of getting knocked over by the pastor and or bitten by a snake. Okay, that's some real intense charismatic churches. Anglican, pro is you can have a beer and cigar with your priest. Con is there's a decent chance your priest is a drag queen. That's a good burn on the Episcopalians. Episcopalians, see Anglicans, but read it in an American accent. Okay, so yeah, in the UK, the Anglicans went progressive a while back. In the US, the Anglicans, ACNA at least, is a response against Episcopalianism. Churches of Christ, the pro is no musical instruments. Con, this means no cowbell. Man, that SNL skit never gets old, does it? The United Methodist Church, pro, cool logo on the church building. Con, rainbow flag on church building. All right. I mean, we obviously know what the rainbow flag business is, but yeah. Unitarian, pro, you can do whatever you want. There's no God or hell. Con, oh no, they're wrong, and now you're in hell. Dude, that's a good one. So here we got, I'm really interested in this. We might come back and do this, but DOGE, of course, is the Department of Government Expenses, something like this. That, of course, on the left is Vivek Ramaswamy, and on the right is Elon Musk. And these two guys have been commissioned with reviewing all federal programs and eliminating anything that is federally wasteful with funds. And so it's an exciting time to be alive. You'll see why I go to it, but there was a topic I got sent by Jen. Joe Biden gives ex-Planned Parenthood CEO Cecil Richards Medal of Freedom in a secret ceremony. This is her right here. Of course, Planned Parenthood is one of the primary agencies in America that provides abortions for women. My understanding is that more than 100 abortions a day take place in our nation. According to science and the human conscience and common sense, babies in the womb and out of the womb are humans. And so what this woman has done, what our federal government has supported fiscally, is an abomination, an affront to the Lord, and a shame for our nation. So the fact that he's awarding this woman is quite a thing. In a secret ceremony, Joe Biden awarded the former CEO of America's biggest abortion business. Biden presented the nation's highest civilian award to Cecil Richards, who ran the Planned Parenthood abortion giant for years and was responsible for it killing millions of babies. The ceremony was not listed on Mr. Biden's public schedule, nor was his decision to award the medal to Miss Richards publicly announced after the presentation, the Washington Times reported. Members of the media were not invited to watch the ceremony, which was not live streamed on the White House website. Gee, it's almost like they know it's a shameful, abominable thing. With absolute courage and conviction, Cecil Richards fearlessly leads us forward to be the America we say we are, a nation of freedom, Mr. Biden said in a statement. Carrying her parents' torch for justice, she's led some of our nation's most important civil rights causes to lift up the dignity of workers, defend and advance women's reproductive rights and equality, and mobilize Americans to exercise their power to vote. The quote continues, with absolute courage and conviction, Cecil Richards fearlessly leads us forward to be the America we say we are, a nation of freedom, Biden said of the radical abortion activist. Quote, carrying her parents' torch for justice, she's led some of our nation's most, I think they just repeated that. He called the pro-abortion extremist as, quote, a leader of the utmost character who has carved an inspiring legacy that endures her incredible family, the countless lives she has made better, and a nation seeking the light of equality, justice, and freedom. I mean, it's just a huge inversion of truth. It's gross. Yeah, that's really a shame. I don't know what's going on with my chat. It stopped sending stuff from YouTube, so now I'm getting chat from locals. No, no. I'm getting it from both. How weird. Okay. So why did I go there? Here's the next article. I found this on X. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy call for defunding Planned Parenthood via Doge, which, this has been a place of contention for decades. The federal government has been funding Planned Parenthood over the cries of conservatives for decades. It's responsible for millions of deaths of babies. And the language from Biden is just particularly sick because he's talking about freedom. Well, listen, if your freedom is to kill somebody, freedom's gone too far. And, the obvious question then is, what about their freedom? The moral standard for any society is how it treats its most vulnerable members. And prior to Christianity showing up on the scene, every society was quite heinous in how it treated the widow, the orphan, women, the elderly. It's only since Christ established his kingdom on earth through the church that we have seen a proliferation of peace and justice and liberty. And the fact that that lexicon is then used for reverting back to a pagan state where we kill babies when they're inconvenient. That's, history is not going to look back on us fondly. And even if they do, when we're in the kingdom, we're just going to have clarity about this and just go, how could we have ever let this happen? But I'm really excited about these guys doing what they're going to do. And even though pretty much everybody, it should be remembered, pretty much everybody on the Trump administration has said they're okay with abortion up to a certain point. And it really is a travesty because the majority of those abortions that take place within that window that they're okay with. But even so, the fact that they are taking away funding is going to have huge implications. And in case you don't know, it disproportionately impacts the poor. And female children and mentally disabled children, which is inhumane. I'll just read a little bit of this article and then return to you guys. When it comes to cutting taxpayer funding and gutting big government for millions of pro-life Americans, there's nothing more important to cut than funding to Planned Parenthood. The majority of Americans generally oppose abortions, and they are tired of hundreds of millions of their tax dollars going to the nation's biggest abortion business every year. Thankfully, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, tapped by President Donald Trump, they didn't capitalize Trump, to head the new Department of Government Efficiency, there it is, Government Efficiency Operation, have proposed cutting the $300 million the Planned Parenthood abortion business gets in federal taxpayer dollars, giving that money back to the people or directing it to legitimate healthcare efforts that support mothers and babies would be a massive pro-life victory. And then that's the quote right there. Okay, yeah, that's at the end of the quote. Lila Rose, the head of Pro-Life Live Action, said such a move would be amazing and highlighted their call for defunding. Under Joe Biden, Planned Parenthood received a record $750 million of taxpayer funding while performing a record 392,000 abortions just last year. The so-called nonprofit now gets roughly 1/3 of its total income from the federal government. During the campaign, vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance said that if he's elected, Donald Trump will fight to defund Planned Parenthood abortion business. During his term as president, Trump took multiple steps to revoke taxpayer funding for the largest abortion company in America. Some were successful, but the abortion giant fought others in court and prevented his executive orders from being implemented to revoke funding. Quote, "We don't think that taxpayers should fund late-term abortions," Vance told Real Clear Politics. That has been a consistent view of the Trump campaign. The first time around, it will remain a consistent view. So they're not eliminating abortions. And of course, Trump has spoken in favor of states being able to determine their own laws around it. This is going to cut down on the number of abortions, even though it's going to remain more stable than we would like because of pharmaceutical abortions and places mailing these medications. So that's going to be an issue coming down the road. It's also worth remembering that America funds abortions not just domestically, but internationally through a number of nonprofit NGOs. We're responsible for millions more abortions every year. Or probably, well, I wonder what the numbers would be and if there's any way to track that. But anytime you see any public health initiatives that is funded by American government, a lot of the time abortion is included. So I bring that up, it's something I personally care about. It's something that I know people get angry about, and it's not that I want to anger anybody, but my fear is that if we don't talk about this well, then bad theology, bad beliefs are going to prevail. And I would just like to do my part to end that. I forget who it was. It was several months ago. It was on the live stream here. We had a woman saying that she wants to go GMC, but it looks to her like the GMC is going to be against abortion, and she's not. And I just said, you need to change your mind. You're wrong. And she was very kind. She said she doesn't think she is, and she's done a lot of prayer and reflection on it. And I don't want to insult the intelligence of people. I don't know. Maybe I do. I don't know. Am I willing to make enemies over this? Yeah, I am. I mean, it's like the moral issue of our day. So yeah, I don't know. I can't do the moral equivalency thing. I can't say, oh, there's good people on both sides or there's smart people on both. I mean, there have been smart people, but just because you're smart doesn't mean you're good. But the world overpopulation is not an issue, and even if it were, killing people's not the answer. Killing a baby doesn't make a poor woman's life any better. I mean, it doesn't undo a rape. It doesn't undo incest. It doesn't accomplish anything good. It's only ever tragic and bad and evil. So I don't know. If it offends you, I don't want to be nasty, but this is true. And it's like one of the most important truths to affirm and stand behind. And heck, if this isn't something worth losing friends and money and station over, then what is really? It's the most important moral issue of our day. So I'm really hoping that President Trump receives great conviction of the Spirit on this issue. I'm really hopeful that our nation will back off from it and see how heinous it is. And yeah, I hope, I know the future is dark because I've read my Bible and I believe Revelation. But even so, we're in a really bad day when Christians can't stand and speak against darkness, Paul says, let's go back to the topic of training for preachers. He says, see the UK Methodist local preachers training system. I've seen the American one. I'm not impressed with it, but maybe the Brits do it better. Steve says, some of us, why does this keep getting big? Some of us had our start in ministry, teaching Sunday school, midweek prayer and Bible study services, youth meetings, nursing home services, visitation programs, even street meetings. Yeah, that's kind of what I think. I mean, I kind of think people should do street preaching. Just see how they do it. One, are they willing to do street preaching? Two, what do they do when someone takes offense? Three, what do they do when someone draws near? Do they know what to do in these situations? I think that would be really telling. But preaching at a revival service, I don't know. Preaching at a regular Sunday service, I don't know. I'm interested in, I appreciate y'all typing these things up. D says, Congregational Methodists have their own internal clergy training program they used to own Westminster Seminary. Yeah, that's right. I read that. Mr. Steve says, once gifts and grace were established or identified, the first big step was to preach a brief sermon at a Sunday evening or Vespers service. Notice that these services have nearly disappeared. Yeah, isn't that unfortunate? He says, I also cited Sunday school midweek, nursing home services, etc. But the comment vanished. Yeah, sorry, Steve. Ed says, okay, this is coming to the abortion. Do I want to say anything else about training clergy? I think we've had a number of models. I think the only one that really seems to have worked, if we're going to talk about working, of course, like sometimes we're bowing at the altar of efficiency or efficacy, and we're not called to be efficient or efficacious. We're just called to be faithful. And you would like to think those are always the same thing, but I don't think they are. But if we're looking at just like what spread scriptural holiness across the land, what made a ton of new disciples, what spread the Methodist movement, it wasn't the academy. It was just this program of taking young men primarily under their wings and taking them on the road and preaching to save souls wherever you went. So whatever that looks like today, that would be really great to do. Edward says, if God doesn't judge America for abortion, he will owe a huge apology to the Old Testament Canaan worshipers of Molech. The abolitionist position is the only morally right position. Yeah, the abolitionist position, I've been following these guys on X. They just say, if abortion is murder, then we need to treat it as murder. As so often by Lila Rose and these others, there's all this compassion and, they don't know what they're doing. That's irrelevant. You're either killing somebody or you're not. These guys are hardcore, and it's hard to say that they're wrong. So yeah, they're always coming after Live Action and Lila Rose because they think that she's watering things down too much and it's not going to get anything done. They occupy an absolutist position, and people say you're not going to win anything that way. It's a hopeless battle, but they have responses to that. They are very conscientious, very strong men who should be taken seriously. It's hard to see how this all works out, but it feels like things are heading in the right direction. Edward says, Planned Parenthood involved in selling viable aborted fetuses to the University of San Diego for experimentation. They got exposed. Well, yeah, this is one of the areas where that America's sick is there have been exposés done and people who go in with hidden cameras and stuff and show that they're doing illegal operations. And then when the U.S. courts get involved, they end up punishing the people who went in there to expose them, which is just asinine. So yeah, there's real evil here. This is not like confusion, although they take advantage of confusion. But this is like about as evil as it gets, and President Biden is praising the leader of it. I mean, this is worse than if a president was taking the leader of the KKK and awarding them a medal behind closed doors and praising them for their freedom, the freedom to be racist. It's much worse to kill babies than to be a racist. Not that, yeah. There you go. There's my most offensive thing to say today. Jennifer says Planned Parenthood is also the biggest provider of hormone blockers. Oh, yeah. And that's an evil thing too, of course. Charles says early Methodist discipleship was more important probably than just the training of the pastor. Absolutely. And that's really, it's funny how insular or self-concerned clergy can be. What really has been lost is not the training of great clergy. It's the training of great laity. Once upon a time, man, if you read the probationer's handbook, well, that's still for leading. I mean, everybody was brought in to the Methodist movement as a probationary member, and the standards for maintaining your membership were high. And because of that, Methodists were known for having very high quality disciples in our midst. That's the thing that's really been lost. If we still had that system, then we could suffer any number of bad quality clergy. Man, yeah, the strength is in the laity. You're totally right to bring it in that direction. I got kind of a kick out of how this Insight article told the story. I'm not going to do the whole article, but I got this from Chris Ritter's website. Obviously, ACLU issues urgent call to stop bill that would endanger nonprofits. That sounds like an important issue, right? Civil rights advocates are urging Americans to pressure members. So this is from Baptist News Global. Pressure members of the House of Representatives to vote against legislation enabling the incoming Trump administration to selectively target nonprofit organizations it considers ideological and political enemies. So right off the bat, yes, of course, we cannot have any system where the party in power can persecute the opposite. So like it's been exposed a couple different times in different ways that the IRS has persecuted conservative Christian organizations. This happened under the Obama administration. It's happened since that and then more recently, among the hurricane recovery, it was exposed that federal workers who were there, usually I can think of the agency. What's wrong with me? If there was a Trump sign out front, they wouldn't pay attention to someone's house. Like this is something that we've seen from the left. We don't want to have an equal and opposite reaction on the right. We want to make it so that no matter where somebody stands politically, they can't be persecuted by whoever's in charge. Quote, in a clear reaction to pro-Palestine protests, the House might pass legislation that would hand the government a dangerous tool to stifle free speech and punish disfavored groups. We must take action, the ACLU warned in an email to its supporters. Narrowly blocked in the House November 14th and again on November 19th, the Stop Terror, there it is, terror, financing and tax penalties on American Hostages Act would give the U.S. Department of Treasury sweeping authority to strip the tax-exempt status of nonprofits considered to be, quote, terrorist supporting. The term is vaguely defined. Quote, this bill gives the executive branch the authority to effectively dismantle any nonprofit organization it deems to have provided material support to terrorist groups, and the potential for abuse under this law is staggering. And if passed on this next attempt, it is unlikely the next administration would limit the bill's use to college students and others protesting Israel's war with Hamas. The ACLU warned, quote, it isn't a stretch to imagine how this bill could be used to pressure universities to shut down student groups and further criminalize dissent in this country. So if you didn't catch it, I tried to make it explicit whenever we were going over it. The bill is just to remove nonprofit status from any nonprofits that are materially funding and aiding terrorist organizations. This is like an easy slam dunk thing. It's not just like who give comfort to the enemy or something non-material. They have to have given material benefits, guns, weapons, money, resources that you can show on paper. If that can be substantiated, then yeah, you should lose your. I mean, really, that doesn't go far enough, does it? If you are giving material help to terrorist organizations like Hamas, then you should be prosecuted. So this is just giving the executive branch the ability to execute its laws and remove beneficial status from organizations that are trying to kill Jews. That's the long and short of this. And the ACLU, which is so thoroughly compromised, is crying foul and saying, "Oh, this can be used wrongly. This is not defined well enough." Material benefit. I mean, as long as it has a stipulation in there, it has to be material in nature, then that's, to my mind, all you need. So it's just crazy to me that a law gets passed. I mean, like, this is the crazy inverted world we're living in. Somebody gets a Presidential Medal of Freedom for lifting up the freedom of a woman to kill her child. And then we worry about the rights of nonprofits and their freedom to support terrorists. I just think that is nuts. And I love, I mean, it makes me furious and so amused at the same time that these people can say and believe such radical, crazy things with a straight face and think that it's real. And, once upon a time, I was one of them. I haven't talked a whole lot about my background, but I grew up a lefty, a big lefty. And it was weird. It took me a long time to see that for what it was and leave that behind. I'm really glad I did, but whenever I'm criticizing and commenting on this stuff, it's like I'm looking at something alien. I mean, it feels alien now, but like it's a house that I used to live in. I know these people. I know how they talk behind closed doors. I mean, I was one. I remember those feelings. I remember those justifications. And it feels like a lot of power for those lies is being sapped right now, which feels like something worthy of rejoicing in, but it's just hard to know what's actually going on behind the scenes. What a big fear that I'm carrying right now is like, it looks like things are going well, but what if it's just a whole other layer of deception? So that's why it's so important to put your trust in the Lord and not in men or political parties. You want to get hopeful about human leadership and social movements, but that's a mistake. They always get co-opted because they're led by humans, and especially when they're not even in submission to Christ. It just seems so silly to get too excited about it. So I'm just a little excited. I'm restrained from passionate excess, Steve says, are you able to take a minute and address how we renew our subscription to your channel? Mine is up. 12.4, do I need to do something or is it an automatic thing? Thanks, Steve. The short answer is I don't know because I haven't subscribed to myself. I think how about if you just fall off here? Remind me to follow up with Steve on December 5th to see if his subscription ended at Locals. How about that? That's probably a Neanderthal issue. I just, I don't want someone to fall between the cracks. If you don't know what he's talking about, if you go to plainspoken.locals.com, that's where you can support me and my ministry. And this Friday live stream really isn't a good example of the stuff that I do. If you haven't seen much, I do a lot of interviews. I do write. I have a morning, Monday through Thursday at 7:30, a morning briefing that I do where I talk about 2 to 5 issues that involve real people on the ground in the church. And so if you want to support me in that work, I am hoping to eventually transition over to that being like a full-time thing, even as I continue to oversee a church here. I never want to be done preaching or doing pastoral ministry, but I do love ministering to folks online and spreading good information. And so if you want to support that work, you can go to plainspoken.locals.com. So thank you, Steve, for your support. Charles says people want pastors to fix or grow the church, but it's the laity that brings true growth. And that's true. Unfortunately, clergy just have so much influence. And I don't think, well, no, I'm not going to say who it is. There's a person who supports me on Locals who was sharing with me the other day that She knows that her church needs to engage the scriptures more, needs to be more worshipful, needs to be in prayer more. So she got a hold of a Book of Common Prayer and started wanting to just do the morning office before worship at the church and invite people to join her. And the preacher there heard about it and just said, "Nope, don't want you doing it," which I'm just really sad about because, I mean, it's a great resource, the Book of Common Prayer, and it's not about it has very little capacity to erect an alternate power structure. I mean, I don't know why a pastor would say, "No, don't do that." Like, it's just a really great thing to do. So, clergy, so much of the time, stand in the way of good things that need to happen. The thing that I've been bent out of shape about is, I mean, obviously, I get bent out of shape about a number of things, but there are pastors that they'll get up, they'll say some version of your relationship with Christ is the most important thing in your life. We're saving souls. Hell is real. Your life is on the line. Yeah, they'll agree with all that. But then they'll just do stupid things in the church that barely have anything to do with Jesus, that are ostensibly to like build connections with new people but I mean, you're the Church of Jesus Christ. You have a limited amount of time and energy and money, and you're spending it on things that are not really connected to Jesus at all. And you teach people to not take this stuff very seriously and to think because they're in a church building and church money is getting spent that you're pleasing Jesus. So often pastors, I've been wanting to give like a little sermon thing for a while. It's November now, but in October is Pastors Appreciation Month. And they used to try and do it at my church. They give me like a gift card or something, call me up front. And then I was a wet blanket. Y'all know me. And I would get up and I would say, I don't need a gift card. I get paid enough. Y'all pay me well. Thank you for that. What I want you to do is follow Jesus. I want you to step up in your faith. I want you to get more serious about this. That's the number one thing I want. That's why I'm doing this. And that's what any pastor should want. They shouldn't want more money, more stuff, more fun. They should just want more devotion to God. But a lot of times you have churches, especially in the Methodist tradition, where a lot of people have Jesus at arm's length and they're not really wanting him to be any closer. They love their pastor. They love their friends at church. They love singing the hymns, but they don't want to get any closer to Jesus. They're doing just fine, thank you. And then at that point, a pastor can either make them uncomfortable or he or she can just give in and take the gift card and have a good time and take their vacation and their sabbatical and take Fridays off and quiet quit, pretty much. And I just think there's so much that clergy do to sap the church of strength so that even if you have laity with good common sense that have a love of Jesus, the pace setter is the clergy. And whenever the clergy's not moving forward, they're just kind of phoning it in and then just doing some kind of joke ministry. I shouldn't say joke. I shouldn't mock, but it's like we have the eternal gospel to offer. And then whenever you just put it in these temporal, like entertainment driven ministries, and you're a laity who wants to you read early church history, you read your Bible, you read good classical doctrine, and you want to pursue Jesus with all your might. And then you're in relationship with this lukewarm clergy that's just, they don't get it. I mean, you can, there are plenty of laity that push and pull and prod, and God bless them for that. But when you're looking at group dynamics, I mean, what needs to be the case is clergy who get it, who are majoring in the things and sapping the church of its concern for minor, tertiary, vain things. And then laity can come alongside them and be passionate together and urge other people to take up their cross and follow Christ. So in recent years, God has sent me a couple young men in particular that have come alongside me who get it. They're not always 100% on the ball, but they get it. They don't take offense. And in fact, they're getting more bold in their faith. And that's the sort of thing that makes me think that the ministry here might be something that pleases God. But I don't know. I think that's all I want to say about that right now. Eileen says, can tax-exempt status be removed from the UMC for terrorizing local churches? Oh, Eileen. That was funny. That would be quite a thing, wouldn't it? Here, I haven't even talked. I put out my post earlier and said, what do y'all want to talk about? Andrew Sullivan says, any updates on upcoming interviews? What's the lineup? And down the road, I know David De Silva signed up for a slot. Edward Darmel has, there might be one or two that have, but I'm leaving town for a couple of weeks, going to Georgia with my family. So nothing's been scheduled for the next couple of weeks. So hopefully, if you, I very much doubt I'm going to be doing any morning briefings. If you don't know about it, I do a daily Bible reading where I cover 6 to 8 chapters a day. It's in conjunction with Christ Church, Idaho. They put out, you read the whole Bible in like 3/4 of a year. Let's see. I'll show it to you on, I think I've got it on my desktop here. It's a really good program, and I can never see it even though it's right in front of me. Takes me, here it is. I'll bring it up here. So you'll see, okay, yeah, we've already done, it began in September, and then we're halfway through November. Today's reading was the book of Colossians. So today I'm recording Song of Songs, and it'll publish tomorrow. But that's not on Plain Spoken. That's on my church's page, No Wada Methodist. And it's on Substack and Facebook and YouTube. And it's just a good thing to do. There are a lot of people who are not reading the Bible daily, and you really should. And so any given day, there are between 30 and 50 people who do the reading with me. You should be one of them. And I'm going to I intend to continue doing that while my wife doesn't think I can, but doggone it, I'm going to do it. So if y'all want to get on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Substack is a great place to do it too. I think we have 40 subscribers right now on Substack. There was something else. Somebody else responded to my, oh heck. Oh, it says that the live stream didn't start on Facebook either. That's fun. Oh man, yeah, the Irvington Methodist Church mess. I'll talk about that in a second. Was there anything else? Oh, yeah, there was. D said, I'm always interested in discussions regarding holiness, principles, and practices. Matt O'Reilly wrote a piece and made a video about being almost Christian. Excuse me. Recently that I found convicting. He also has a new book out on the subject. Yeah, holiness more and more is just rising to the top as perhaps the most important thing to talk about. In, when we're talking about reclaiming Methodism, what is holiness? What does it look like? And I find myself, so Matt O'Reilly actually watched the segment she's talking about. If you go to, oh, did I close it? If you go to YouTube, I just typed in Matt O'Reilly's names and, well, now, oh wait, here we go. Theology Project is his channel. And then if you go there, videos. Oh, he posted something 8 hours ago. Look at him. But this was yesterday. Are you an almost Christian? And it's really a decent...
Are you an almost Christian? Am I? That's the question raised by John Wesley in his...
And so we're not going to watch it right now, but it's really a decent production. And, it's based on a sermon that John Wesley wrote and delivered called The Almost Christian, which is actually super offensive because he he takes what are considered high standards for Christian faith in his culture and says, actually, you're still not a Christian. Like the standard is so much deeper and broader and sweeter than that. He uses his own language. This is me putting in my language. So Matt actually does a really good job of conveying that, and it would not be a waste of your time to spend your time with him learning about that. Even better, actually reading the sermon, because John Wesley does speak very plainly, even in his English, which is a bit different from ours today. It's still pretty easily understood. So to Dee's question or point, a discussion regarding holiness principles and practices, I've found myself like wondering, I don't know why I'm saying like so much today. I guess I'm kind of insecure. What is the language that I could use that conveys to people how powerful holiness is, how desirable holiness is, how attainable holiness is by the power of the Holy Spirit? Jesus said, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled, Um, and righteousness and holiness are very closely related concepts. Holiness is something that throughout the Old and New Testament, I mean, it's God's nature. And you'll often hear that the definition of holiness is like to be set apart, but that's not really it. Like, it's not a negative thing fully. I mean, yes, we are set apart from the world. We're not of the world. We're not of the flesh anymore. We're of the Spirit. But there's what's the there, and it's whatever God's nature is that is powerful and otherworldly, and um, it's godly. Can we have that? Can we be that? And then the biblical answer uniformly is yes. So what does that look like? The Bible gives us lots of tools for figuring that out. It has vice lists. Well, if you do this, 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 then you will not be welcome in the kingdom. You have Jesus and Paul, Peter, all of them, all the New Testament authors, even John and Revelation, vice lists. You can't do these things. And then you have virtue lists as well. The fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And it isn't as though you can create like two categories of pros and cons. I do all these, I don't do these, and then I've purchased my salvation. That's not how it works. Christ purchased your salvation, and then your response out of love is entire fealty and devotion to him. And that's why John Wesley talked about Christian perfection. That's the notion of pure and perfect love crowding out all room for sin, willful sin at least. Mark Olson and I talked about this. So in Jesus' day, there was a group of people called the Essenes. They wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. They lived in Qumran in a commune by themselves. And they believed in a concept called, we call it today, angelomorphism, the belief that by holy living, one could actually be transformed into like an otherworldly angelic being, sort of. And that's a very similar concept to what Christians believe, only it's not by holy living, it's by Christ's holy life, death, and resurrection, and his atoning blood being applied to our hearts, that we are born again of water and the Spirit, are regenerated. And that's what we have to yearn for, is freedom from sin, rebuking our sin, repenting of sin, walking in newness of life, not doing any of that stupid, sinful, evil stuff that we used to do, but even more importantly, not being that wretch that we used to be. And this is just the thing. It's really hard for people to get. They have this notion of like, we're already basically pretty good. God just takes some bad stuff away, and then all that's left is good. And that's just not the case. Like, we're bad. We're irredeemable outside of supernatural work from Christ. And then once he transforms you, you are a different creature, and that creature is holy. I need to find better language than this. I need to find something that people hear it and just go, oh, here's the difference between what I've been taught and what that is. But it's something as, it's taking someone who's born and looks like an animal and changing them from the inside so that what emanates out of them is of God, not of humanity. And we are, even though the world might look at us and see nothing special, they looked at Jesus and saw nothing special. We're We're holy. I don't know. That has to be the hunger and yearning animating everything that we do. Otherwise, we're completely missing the point, right? Anyway, I'll work on that language, and yeah, we should focus on that. Gabe spoke to Steve and said you can set it up to auto renew. So thank you if you do that. Thank you. Jeff Pospisil is with us with some great financial advice. Oh, she was clarifying with Jeff. Jeff gave her a serious answer. That's funny. Dee says, I've also not lived so pure a life. I did not grow up in the church. One day in my 40s, the light bulb just came on. My testimony is this: Jesus does still do Road to Emmaus experiences. Hallelujah. God bless you, Paul. All right, it looks like it's time to end. I think I hit everything that people wanted me to. If anybody said, well, I didn't hit on the Irvington church mess, but I think I'll do that and clip it up next week. Who knows? Appreciate y'all spending time with me, all 32 of you. God bless you, and those who watch later. God bless you. I hope my meditations on some of this stuff has been helpful for you. Would appreciate your prayers. I'm trying to minister to a family. The patriarch died a couple weeks ago, and then the matriarch died the other day, and we're having her funeral on Monday. And I'm really glad that she didn't suffer or have to live a long time without her husband, but it's still just quite a loss for her family and then for my church family. So let me pray for them, and I'll pray for you. Father, I lift up Margie's family and ask that you would give them comfort and consolation in this time and draw them close to you. I pray for those who've spent their time together with me here on the internet and ask that you would bring them close to you, that you would help them to hunger and thirst for righteousness, that you would, again, make holiness a hallmark of Methodism and Christianity more broadly, that we would see the transforming power of your Holy Spirit in millions and billions of lives. And Father, that we might know your goodness and salvation this side of heaven, that we might see the fullness of your kingdom, that you would send your kingdom, that you would make us your kingdom people, that you would teach us to rightly fear, rightly repent, rightly walk in holiness and righteousness all our days, Father. Glorify yourself in us. And Lord, if there are any in this audience that are just far from you and don't get the appeal of holiness, I pray that you would open their eyes. I pray that you would convict them of sin and that you would teach them a true love of you that leads to love of others. I pray, Father, that you would just make us obsessive, Father, in seeking you, not being legalist checking off lists, but being true believers that put all of our trust in you. May we know such joy in this life. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. God bless you. Draw close to the Lord. Do right. Don't do wrong. I'll be seeing you soon.